an introduction, lesson number 1, and then we spoke about the first concept that, of course, is going to completely destroy your Tawheed, which is what the shirk billahi azza wa jal, the greatest sin. And then we took number 2. What was number 2? What was number 2? Your favorite topic? Feminism. Now, and then you have number 3. Secularism. Number 4. Liberalism. Number 5. Homosexuality. Saying that homosexuality is not a sin. There's a difference between saying that I've committed this act, or one now falling into this major sin according to Sharia, not according to Taymiyyah, according to Sharia, right? One falling into this act and practicing it, which is one thing. On the other hand, saying that this is not a sin or there's nothing wrong with it, which one is worse? Doing the act or saying that it's not a sin? Saying it's not a sin. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He clearly and explicitly mentioned that the practices of the people of Lut was regarded as what? فاحشة. وَلُوطًا إِذْ قَالَ لِقَوْمِهِ أَتَأْتُونَ إيش؟ الْفَاحِشَةَ. He said to them, are you going to carry out this fahisha? مَا سَبَقَكُمْ بِهَا مِنْ أَحَدٍ مِنَ الْعَالَمِينَ. No one preceded you in this. From the time of Adam and Eve, no one preceded you in this. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala condemned them for doing this act. So somebody comes along and now says, there's nothing wrong. Right? This is far more dangerous than actually doing the act. And that is because you're legitimizing it after Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made it haram. Or saying that it's halal when Allah azza wa jal made it haram. Or negating that which Allah clearly and explicitly said in the Quran. And we mentioned negation was the ruling for negating something in the Quran, even if it is one letter, saying this letter shouldn't be there, for example. Was the ruling of saying that this letter, right, or denying something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has pointed out in the Quran. What's the hukm of that? What's the ruling of that? That takes an individual out of the fold of Islam. You have major sins, which doesn't take you out of the fold of Islam. You guys with me? Major sins does not take you out of the fold of Islam. It's a despicable, right? It's a despicable, abhorrent act to be engaging in when something is major. However, it still doesn't take you out of the fold of Islam. Saying something shouldn't be there in the Quran, like even if it is one letter. If I take it out and say that it shouldn't be here, this is from the things that takes an individual out of the fold of Islam. Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu ta'ala anhu, they say, "Man jahad harf bil-Qur'ani qad kafar." Whoever negates one letter from the Quran is disbelieving. Also Allah says, وَمَا يَجْحَدُ بِآيَاتِنَا إِلَّا الْكَافِرُونَ. None denies our verses except that he is from the kafirun. It's important that we distinguish between these masail. Now, right. Number 6, inshallah ta'ala, we're going to finish, right, these remaining 5 today's lesson. Inshallah ta'ala, it won't be that long at all. Number 6, my brothers and my sisters, the Abrahamic Accord. Does anyone know what the Abrahamic Accord is? Well, that which relates to Al-Bayt al-Ibrahimi, the Abrahamic family house. When we talk about the Abrahamic Accord, what is it referring to?
Is it the 3 religions?
Huh? It's in the 3 religions. Like, what's wrong with the 3 religions? Huh?
They're from like Islam.
Do we say that they're all correct? All the 3 religions?
Some 2 of them are corrupted, one of them is correct.
2 of them have been corrupted and the other one's correct, huh?
Is it a treaty with Israel?
The treaty with Israel. Is that what we're referring to when we say the Abrahamic Accord? No, that's something else. It's a tatbi'ah. No. When we say the Abrahamic Accord, I can see some of you guys are probably thinking that it's perhaps something that is not correct, while at the same time, Abrahamic, Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam. Hi, Jama'ah. When we say the Abrahamic Accord, we mentioned, or we put it on the poster, 10 concepts are going to compromise your Tawheed. Who can explain to me how this concept of the Abrahamic Accord will compromise your Tawheed? Is there actually even something wrong with it? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He tells us about Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam. In the Quran, He tells us to follow Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam. قَدْ كَانَتْ لَكُمْ أُسْوَةٌ حَسَنَةٌ فِي Ibrahim. Allah tells you have a perfect role model and example in Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam. So what's wrong with the Abrahamic Accord? Abdullah. بشيء. طيب, brothers and sisters. We're living in a time and age where terminologies are played around with. Have you guys heard of something called halal hip hop? Huh? Halal hip hop. Are they two words that go together? Oxymoron. The fact that you change the name of something, it doesn't change its reality. Changing the name of something, it doesn't change its reality. Are you brothers and sisters with me? Right? المسميات لا تغير الحقائق. Names don't change the reality of something. You can call a bottle of alcohol whatever you want. You call it spirit. Or they've got other names for it. What do they call it? Huh? Booze. Huh? Booze. Booze. Now I'm talking about in order to kind of downplay the seriousness of this alcohol. It's got another name for it. على كل حال, you're always going to find terminologies that are played around with in order to legitimize that which is being done. Right? There are certain words, my brothers and my sisters, يحتمل حقا وباطلا. There are some vague, ambiguous terms that carry more than one meaning. Right? For example, now this term Abrahamic Accord. Abrahamic Accord. It could mean something that is correct, and at the same time, it could be used for something that is what? Batil. And we should be clear in the terminologies that we use. I don't want to go too deep into when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, لا تقولوا راعنا وقولوا انظرنا واسمعوا وللكافرين عذاب. Allah Azza wa Jalla condemned the Jews for using certain words that carried more than one meaning. Right? It's a form of deception at times, where one uses a term which carries more than one meaning, right? When in reality it is absolutely false. Like Abrahamic Accord, or Al-Bayt al-Ibrahimi, the Abrahamic family house. I've got a couple of verses written down here, and inshallah ta'ala I'm going to stand over each one. I'm also going to quote a certain well-known Islamic personality who uttered certain statements which are extremely, extremely dangerous. So inshallah ta'ala we're clear on this concept. That is detrimental to that which is most precious to you, which is your Tawheed, your Islam. The first verse that I've written down here, my brothers and my sisters, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Inna ad-Deen 'inda Allahi al-Islam. The accepted religion with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is none other than al-Islam. Right? يعني the true religion. الدين الحق الذي كان عليه جميع الرسل حتى ختموا بمحمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. The religion that all of the prophets were upon, my brothers and my sisters, is what? Islam. Musa was a Muslim. Isa was a Muslim. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was what? A Muslim. Islam, what does it mean? It means to submit to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam, he was also a Muslim. ما كان إبراهيم يهوديا ولا نصرانيا ولكن كان حنيفا حنيفا مسلما. Allah tells Ibrahim wasn't a Jew, he wasn't a Christian, but rather he was what? حنيفا مسلما. He was Muslim. Someone who submitted to the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. إذ قال له ربه أسلم قال أسلمت لرب العالمين. Allah Azza wa Jalla told him to do Aslim, which means to become a Muslim. He said, I've indeed submitted myself to the Lord of the worlds. So the religion of all of these prophets was none other than Islam. Right? Which is to submit to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with the Tawheed, with the Inqiyad, with the Ta'ah, والبراءة من الشرك وأهله. Right? And to do as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has told you to do, and to free yourself from shirk and its people. Three components that Islam comprises. Right? To submit to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with Tawheed, to do what Allah told you to do, right? To fulfill His commandments, stay away from His prohibitions, and also what? To free yourself from shirk and his people. That's what it means. However, each prophet, my brothers and my sisters, had a different sharia. لكل جعلنا منكم شرعة ومنهجا. They had a different methodology. You had the foundation, which is what the Tawheed. They all came with the same message. وَلَقَدْ بَعَثْنَا فِي كُلِّ أُمَّةٍ رَسُولًا أَنِ اعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ وَاجْتَنِبُوا الطَّاغُوتَ. They all had the same foundational message, which is to move the people away from shirk and to call them to what? Singling out Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in worship. Are you guys clear with me? However, there was rules and regulations that were different with the prophets. For example, in the time of Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam, they were allowed to prostrate to other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but this was something that was abrogating the sharia of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Right? So there are certain things that were allowed here and not allowed in the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam's sharia, abrogated all of them. طيب. So Allah tells us in the Deen عند الله الإسلام. Right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He also tells in the Quran, وَمَنْ يَبْتَغِ غَيْرَ الْإِسْلَامِ دِينًا فَلَنْ يُقْبَلَ مِنْهُ. Whoever now desires other than Islam, it will not be accepted. Like someone may turn around and say, I believe that the true religion of God is none other than Christianity, is none other than Judaism. What makes the book of Allah, the Quran, distinct from all of these other books? Can anyone give an answer?
Unchanged.
Huh?
Unchanged.
It has been changed. Anything else?
They have the stories of
Yeah, stories of all of these other prophets. Yeah, Jama'at al-Khayrat. So much that we can mention. I've been delivering lectures on 5 Quranic verses to repel doubts or to deal with modern day doubts. Right? Under the first point, I've been speaking a little bit about some of the challenges that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has placed inside His Quran. Allah Azza wa Jal mentioned 3 challenges in the Quran. And each time it gets more and more simpler. Right? What was the first challenge? Does anyone know?
to rewrite the whole Quran.
Excellent. Allah says, قُلْ لَئِنِ اجْتَمَعَتِ الْإِنسُ وَالْجِنُّ عَلَىٰ يَأْتُوا بِمِثْلِ هَذَا الْقُرْآنِ لَا يَأْتُونَ بِمِثْلِهِ. If the jinn and the ins, they all came together in order to produce a Quran like this, they wouldn't be able to do so. You are the most eloquent of Arabs. The Quran wasn't just set down on people who learned the Arabic language. They were the most eloquent when it came to Arabian poetry, brothers. They weren't able to produce it. So then there was what? A second challenge that was simpler than the first. Allah says in Surah Hud, أَمْ يَقُولُونَ افْتَرَاهُ قُلْ فَأْتُوا بِعَشْرِ سُوَرٍ مِثْلِهِ مُفْتَرَيَاتٍ وَادْعُوا مَنِ اسْتَطَعْتُم مِّن دُونِ اللَّهِ إِن كُنتُمْ صَادِقِينَ. Bring forth 10 chapters. 10. from Surah Nas, Surah Falaq, قل هو الله أحد، تبت يدا مثل سورة فتح. إذا جاء نصر الله بالفتح. نعم إذا جاء نصر الله قل يا الكافرون. and then what? كوثر. What's after كوثر? رأيت الذي معنون. and then قريش. and then في أحسنتم. Just bring 10 like that. That was the second challenge for them. They weren't able to do so. طيب, make it even more simple. Allah says in the Quran, وَإِن كُنْتُمْ فِي رَيْبٍ مِّمَّا نَزَّلْنَا عَلَىٰ عَبْدِنَا فَأْتُوا بِسُورَةٍ. Just bring forth one chapter. One. The shortest chapter in the Quran is which one? Surah Al-Kawthar. إِنَّا أَعْطَيْنَاكَ الْكَوْثَرَ فَصَلِّ لِرَبِّكَ وَانْحَرْ إِنَّ شَانِئَكَ وَلَأَبْتَرَ. 3 small verses. Bring forth something along the lines of that. Right? Were they able to do this, my brothers and my sisters? The challenge still stands till this very day. They, the Arabs, who were the most eloquent, weren't able to meet this challenge. And until today, my brothers and my sisters, have you guys seen anyone produce anything like the Quran? Right? And there are many ways of looking at the Quran, my brothers and my sisters. Producing a Quran with similar wording and a meaning that flows, right, in the style. Also, when you look at the context, when you look at the content, you have historical proofs, you have observational proofs. They weren't able to prove anything like that. Allah Azza wa Jalla speaking about the unseen. ما استطاع. And likewise, my brothers and sisters, in the Quran you have the formation of the embryo. How is it possible that Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, who was illiterate, do you guys know what that means? Illiterate is someone who wasn't able to read or write in the middle of the desert. Huh? And the Quran mentions in detail the formation of the human embryo, right? Which is something that cannot be seen except with an electronical microscope. How does a man in the middle of a desert, 1400 years ago, accurately makes all these claims? And then alongside that, you have all of these prophecies that which the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam made a claim of 1400 years ago, that which would take place today. Like, for example, what? Who can give me something that the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam said 1400 years ago, which became a reality today?
Competing billion to house.
Ahsan. It's one of my favorite ones. Even though there's many. Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he told us, وَأَن تَرَى الْحُفَاةَ الْعُرَاةَ الشَّاءَ يَتَطَاوَلُونَ فِي الْبُنْيَانِ. You're going to see barefooted Bedouins competing in what? Making buildings. 60, 70 years ago in Dubai or in the Emirates. Did they have all these buildings? Did they have all these buildings? Who were they? Those people over there. They were Bedouins, guys. Bedouins. Running around sheep. Running after sheep, guys. They were shepherds. And then they discovered, oh, mashallah, the petrol. Made them the money and they started about competing in buildings. Sahih? Now they're competing over Ronaldo. Now the other day, Victoria Park, I saw a kid who was wearing Al Nasser. It's like, it affected you, huh? Reached all the way here. Al Nasser football kid. It's like Ajib. A team that British people would never ever look at, but now you find running around Victoria Park with Al Nasser kids. Shahid, can I have brothers and sisters, right? All these prophecies in the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam mention of which is impossible, right? To make a prediction of. You're in the middle of the desert. Also, when the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, on the signs of the hours that zina is going to become widespread, killings are going to become widespread. Sahih. He's saying, لا يأتي على الناس زمان لا يدري القاتل فيما قتل ولا يدري المقتول فيما قتل. The one killing doesn't know why he's killing, and the one who's been killed doesn't know why he's been killed. How many cases do we have like that? At least back in the day, they were fighting for something. And they knew why they were fighting. Today, they don't. Also, you have in the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he told us about women that will appear that are dressed and naked at the same time. How is that possible? Dressed and naked at the same time. كاسيات عاريات والزمين. What's it mean? كاسيات عاريات. They are clothed, but it is as if they're naked because of how tight the clothing is. Also, Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that which I fear the most for you is none other than the practices of what? Lut. Not Lut, the people of Lut. أعوذ بالله ننسب ذلك إلى Lut. Homosexual practices. You know, brothers, I've been thinking more about this hadith in recent times. Because of course, you know, our generation, you know, the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam was speaking to the likes of his companions, telling them to try to fear the most, and also it's something that we should fear as well, right? Of course, I went to America, I went to other places. The cases where one now changes his fitrah, how Allah Azza wa Jalla created him, to maybe chopping things off and whatever have you, right? It's not as widespread. However, subhanAllah, so when I was contemplating on this, right? And then last week, we kind of like touched on it a little bit as well. We're a transitional generation, Sahih. We've seen things change. We've all witnessed this, Sahih. Once upon a time, no one was going, I think I mentioned this last week, at school. If somebody started behaving all feminine, everyone would start calling him gay, sah? They would laugh at him. Are you allowed to do that now? Is it even possible for you to do that now? Without getting into trouble? Like, so we've all kind of witnessed a state of how the people were. However, the next generation now, after this matter has become so popularized and normalized and fear-mongering tactics have been used to shut you down, everyone's scared now. The next generation are probably not even been born yet, but they're going to be born and then 7, 8 years down the line. They're in school and they're being shown all of this like they are now. What's the likelihood that they're going to see anything wrong with this? Very likely, isn't it? Them seeing that there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. And I could be having just try to digressing here. Also, my brothers and my sisters, when you look at Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam's message, the Quran was sent down upon him. I have a field day every time I see these Christian missionaries. I act like an old jahil. I go up to them and say, I'm more than happy to explore Christianity, my friends. Can you just prove to me that this is actually the word of God? Not a single one's able to do that. And you give me a chain of it because I said to him, look, I'm a Muslim. Huh? I was born upon Islam. And we've been taught that we have something called Ilm al-Hadith, right? Ilm al-Hadith. The science of Hadith, where every single report is examined critically. Sahih? Every single report. You have to look at the chain of narration. You know what? SubhanAllah, Ilm al-Hadith. Right? It actually works in our favor when speaking to these Christians. To show the distinction between the Quran and everything else. Chain of narration. We are not accepting any report unless it is examined critically. It's scrutinized from beginning to end, making sure that there aren't any weak reporters in that chain of narration. And then we'll reject it. Right? I said to him, just prove to me that you can, one chain going all the way up to Jesus. They can't. Oh, we got lost. Like there was a time, Paul, and that. The challenge still stands, my brothers and my sisters, for them to disprove the Quran. And every time they try to come with anything that might look, maybe, it gets shut down straight away. Also, my brothers and sisters, right? When you look at how many people have memorized this Quran, you look at how many people have memorized this Quran. How many people do you think have memorized this Quran, brothers and sisters? Does anyone have a number? I tried to search it up and I found 4 million, and I thought that was an understatement. The people that have memorized the Quran globally. I think it's a lot more than that. Even if it is 4. Is there any other book that has been preserved like that? When Allah made that claim, Inna nahnu nazzalna dhikra, we have indeed sent down the Quran, we have preserved it. Have you guys seen that viral video going around of a Somali chef that was leading the Salah? He made a mistake at the end of Surah Taha. He said, فَمَنْ تَبِعَ هُدَايَ فَلَا يَضِلُّ وَلَا يَشْقَى. What's the correct? What's the correct way of saying it? I just said, فَمَنْ تَبِعَ هُدَايَ. فَمَنْ اتَّبَعَ هُدَايَ. You see the difference? فَمَنْ تَبِعَ هُدَايَ فَمَنْ اتَّبَعَ هُدَايَ. Tashkil. MashaAllah, this sheikh is actually mutqin. His name is Abdul Ghaffar. Whatever. Huh? They call him the Gaffer. He's mutqin. You won't hear him make a mistake, generally speaking. Right? Guess who corrects him? Maybe I think he was 7 or 8 years of age. The one that's correcting him behind him. 7, 8 years. Says, "Family taba." You hear that cute voice from the back. And then the chef corrects himself. And then he also makes a smile and video went absolutely viral. Right? A young child, Allah Azza wa Jalla has preserved the Quran through him. Across the globe, brothers and sisters. Right? Quran's there. Preserved. Not just the letters, but even what? Tashkilat. Even though he's much more knowledgeable, he's much more learned and versed in the Quran, a little kid, he corrects you, take it. It's not your Quran, it's the word of Allah. Right? Can you imagine, my brothers and my sisters, memorizing a 600-page book written in Japanese, or in Russian, or in Chinese? Right? Can you imagine that? 600 pages Japanese? People memorizing the Quran, they don't understand the Quran. So, hey, many of you guys went to Madrasa Duksi, you memorize the Quran, you don't have a clue what he's talking about. To attempt is honestly something amazing. To succeed is even more amazing. To memorize all of these different masahif, all these different books that are written in Japanese or Chinese or Russian. Imagine, brothers and sisters. Has that been accomplished? But the Quran, guys, Arabic language, 600 pages. Millions of people have memorized the book of Allah. And you go to what we're speaking about, brothers and sisters, the Abrahamic Accord. Right? There's a very known religious speaker, still very well known. If I mention his name, I think everyone here is going to know what I'm talking about. Allah, guys, about the video, I transcribed everything that he said to use this in my class so that we can scrutinize the statement in light of the Sharia. This very well-known Islamic personality, also considered a scholar amongst many, stood up and he's standing in front of Buddha. He says, one of the things that our Abrahamic traditions suffer from is exclusivism. Whether they may be Jews and Christians. So when people are false today say, my brothers and my sisters, that we have the Abrahamic Accord, what they want to bring under the Abrahamic Accord is Islam, Judaism, and also Christianity. This is the false meaning of Abrahamic Accord. Are you guys with me? To say that Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, they all come under the family home of Abraham, or Ibrahim. وهذا فيه غاية البطلان. Right? So he's saying each one of them they claim exclusivism. Yani, they're saying that the truth is exclusively belonging to us. He says whether they be Jews, Christians, or Muslims. Ajib. They tend to see themselves as having some monopoly on the truth. Anyone, my brothers and my sisters, who doesn't believe that Al-Islam is the true religion, this person is not a Muslim. Or doubts that this person is not a true Muslim, my brothers and sisters. Al-Islam means that you believe in the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is the Quran, and you believe, we do kufr with Tawheed, you disbelieve in every other one, religion or every other false message that has come about, whether it may be Judaism or Christianity. We believe that they are two religions that have been what? Distorted and changed. And then he says, claiming the voice of God to oneself is probably the most dangerous and really the capital sin of people that claim God. Don't, if we accept or even assume the possibility that he did speak, or the divine spoke through these revelations of the Old Testament, or the Old Testament, the New Testament, and then the Quran, which each one has their claim, if we do accept that, then look what he says, certainly God has many voices. And to claim any one voice to be exclusive voice of God is very dangerous thing to do. Well, my brothers and my sisters, this is a type of statement that takes an individual out of full Islam. To say that Allah Azza wa Jalla has many voices, or to make a claim that there are different paths now to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, meaning you could follow any of these other different religions to get to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, هذا من أكثر الكفر. It's from the worst types of kufr. Right? The Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said clearly and explicitly, وَالَّذِي نَفْسُ مُحَمَّدٍ بِيَدِهِ. Right? by the one who Muhammad is in his hand, meaning swearing by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, لا يسمع بأحد من هذه الأمة يهودي ولا نصراني ثم يموت ولم يؤمن بالذي أرسلت به إلا كان من أصحاب النار. None hears of me, whether he's a Jew or a Christian from my ummah. ثم يموت, and then he dies. Right? And then he did not believe in that which I was sent with. This person will be from the companions of the hellfire. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was sent to all people. وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا كَافَةً لِلنَّاسِ. To all of mankind, the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was sent to, including the Jews and the Christians. And the Jews, حَسَدُوهُ, they had envy towards him. And they knew that he was the Prophet of Allah. الَّذِينَ آتَيْنَاهُمُ الْكِتَابَ يَعْرِفُونَهُ كَمَا يَعْرِفُونَ أَبْنَاءَهُمْ. They knew he was. They recognized him the same way they would recognize their children. Right? Why is Allah Azza wa Jalla, out of all of the comparisons they can make, he's saying, right, they recognize him the same way they recognize their own children. Does anyone know their children better than them? Can we say that I know you better than your father? Is that correct for me to say that kind of statement? Of course not. The father tends to know his child more than anyone else. And they knew that. فَأَبَوْا أَنْ يَأْخُذُوا مِنْهُ. So they refused to take it from him. Right? Also, if you look at the last page of the first juz in Surah Al-Baqarah, the last page, وَاللَّهُ عَزَّ وَجَلَّ تُقْفَ وَقَالُوا كُونُوا هُودًا أَوْ نَصَارَى تَهْتَدُوا. They said, the Jews will say, be a Jew, a Christian. Huh? Oh, sorry, before somebody come. فَقَالُوا, they said, before. فَقَالُوا كُونُوا هُودًا. Right? Either they say to you, be a Jew, and then you'll be a guy. The Christian, they will say to you, be a Christian, and indeed you'll be guided. Allah then Azza wa Jal, he debunks this. He refuses and says, say to them, بَلْ مِلَّةَ إِبْرَاهِيمَ حَنِيفًا وَمَا كَانَ مُشْرِكًا. But rather the religion of Ibrahim. This was the true religion. And he wasn't from the mushrikeen. He wasn't from the mushrikeen. So how can we now say that Judaism or Christianity and Islam are all the same? Allah Azza wa Jal is clearly making a distinction here. Right? This, my brothers and my sisters, is a sentiment that is becoming more and more popular in order to bring the different religions under one banner. Right? And you'll see it spreading in some places around the world. Huh? Are you brothers with me? Becoming more and more popular under the banner of what? Tolerance. Under the banner of what? Respecting other religions. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, قُولُوا آمَنَّا بِاللَّهِ وَمَا أُنزِلَ إِلَيْنَا وَأُنزِلَ إِبْرَاهِيمَ وَإِسْمَاعِيلَ وَإِسْحَاقَ وَيَعْقُوبَ وَالْأَسْبَاطِ. Say to them, right? I believe in Allah, and I believe in that which was sent upon Ibrahim, Ismail, Ishaq, Yaqub, and the Asbaq, which were the tribes of Yaqub alayhi salatu wasalam from his progeny. Right? وَمَا أُوتِيَ مُوسَى, which was sent to Musa. And Isa was refuting them, saying, believe in what was sent upon Musa. Believe in that which was sent upon Isa. Who is he saying this to? Saying this to the Christians and the Jews. Right? لا نفرق بين أحد منهم ونحن لو أننا الله says فإن آمنوا بمثل ما آمنتم به فقد اهتدوا. If they believe that which they have believed in, only then they will be guided. وإن تولوا فإنما هم في شقاق. Right? Also Allah Azza wa Jalla says ولا تلبسوا الحق بالباطل وتكتموا الحق وأنتم تعلمون. And do not mix the truth with falsehood and hide it. Don't do that while you know it. قتال بن عبد السدوسي رحمة الله عليه says لا تلبسوا اليهودية والنصرانية بالإسلام. Don't conflate Judaism, Christianity with Islam. Don't do that. Indeed, the accepted religion with Allah Azza wa Jal is none other than Islam. Judaism and Nasraniya that you have is a bid'ah, is an innovation, ليست من Allah. Right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is free from it. Then you have, my brothers and my sisters, facilitating places of worship for shirk to be carried out, like temples, churches, and synagogues. ما رأيكم في هذا? If I was to now facilitate that for them now to worship other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or I believe that this is actually a place of worship that is acceptable. ما رأيكم في هذا? Under the banner of tolerance. This is exactly right. When you hear this Abrahamic family house, right? Where you have maybe what? A masjid has been built. You find also a temple of Christianity has been built. And then what? A synagogue. All within walking distance. You guys know what I'm talking about, right? Huh? You guys know what I'm talking about? Scary game. طيب يا جماعة الخيرات لا يلبس عليكم أحدا أو لا يلبس أحد عليكم لا أظن البهوت رحمة الله عليه كتاب الشاف his explanation he says quoting Ibn Taymiyyah رحمة الله عليه من اعتقد أن الكنائس بيوت الله whoever believes that the kanais churches are the houses of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala وأن الله يعبد فيها and that Allah is being worshipped in these places, right, or these churches or these synagogues. وأن ما يفعل اليهود والنصارى عبادة الله, right, and that which the Jews and the Christians are doing is an act of worship to Allah Azza wa Jalla. وطاعة له ولرسوله أو أنه يحب ذلك, or this is now in obedience to Allah and His Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Allah loves that, or يرضاه, or is satisfied with it. فهو كافر. And this individual, my brothers and my sisters, is indeed a disbeliever. لأنه يتضمن اعتقاد صحة دينهم وذلك كفر كما تقدم, because this entails legitimizing their religion, and this is something that takes you out of fold in Islam. Right. And then he talks about, right, أعانهم على فتحها, or helps them in opening these churches and these synagogues, and helps them now to establish their religion, right? And this individual has indeed disbelieved. فهو كافر. To conclude this point, my brothers and my sisters, Shaykh Ibn Taymiyyah says, وَلَقَدْ خَاضَ وَكَذَبَ وَشَاهَ وَجْهُهُ من قال أن الأديان ثلاثة بعد بعثة الرسول صلوات ربي وسلامه عليه. Indeed, this individual now who makes the claim that all of these three religions are one after Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was sent, right? And this individual has indeed lied, right? He's at loss. His face has become black. ما فيه إلا دين واحد. There's no religion except the religion of Islam, one. ومن زعم أن دينا يقبل بعد بعثة الرسول سوى الإسلام فإنه كافر مرتد. Anyone who makes the claim that a religion is accepted after the Messenger ﷺ came with his religion, indeed this person has what disbelieved and he has apostated. And that is because he's a mukaddib billah. He has denied that which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala came with, because Allah said, وَمَنْ يَبْتَغِ غَيْرَ الْإِسْلَامِ دِينًا فَلَنْ يُقْبَلَ. To conclude, Allah tells about Ibrahim, قَدْ كَانَتْ لَكُمْ أُسْوَةٌ حَسَنَةٌ فِي إِبْرَاهِيمَ. You have indeed a perfect example in Ibrahim alayhi salam. وَالَّذِينَ مَعْهُ, those who were with him. إِذْ قَالُوا لِقَوْمِهِمْ, when they said to their people, إِنَّا بُرَآءُ مِنْكُمْ وَمِمَّا تَعْبُدُونَ مِنْ دُونِ اللَّهِ. Indeed, we are free from you and that which you worship besides Allah. This is the core fundamental symbol of our deen, brothers and sisters. To love what Allah loves and to dislike what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala dislikes. It is as simple as that, my brothers and my sisters. Al-wala wal-bara. To love what Allah loves and to stay away from what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala stayed away from. And this is exactly what Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam came with. Right? This is something that honestly at this moment in time needs to be revived. When you hear the national anthem, let me ask you guys a question. Imagine now someone came into the masjid and started singing a national anthem. What do you guys think? Huh? National anthem inside the masjid? Sure, I come. Or to say, oh, the Queen deserved to be in the Jannah. Wallahi, we had little kids on BBC, they were being interviewed, guys. Right. That which has died, my brothers and my sisters, is this concept of what? Al-wala wal-bara. And of course, my brothers and my sisters, when I say that we hate shirk and we hate disbelief and that which Allah Azza wa Jalla disbelieves, that doesn't mean, my brothers and sisters, that we are against coexistence. Or that I have to make this disclaimer, that we're going to walk around now harming non-Muslims. No. لَكُمْ دِينُكُمْ وَلِيَ دِينِ. Right? I don't have to now start attending your Christmas parties. لَكُمْ دِينُكُمْ وَلِيَ دِينِ. Right? One feels like, oh, I have to basically coexist. Right? I have to be, the word that I'm looking for is I have to socialize. That's their religion, this is my religion. Right? And even if you look at, we talked about the concept of liberalism, live and let be, let everyone have their freedom. Is that really a reality, my brothers and my sisters say? Is that really a reality? Or they're shoving down our throats of rainbows and whatever have you, right? And if I don't actually see eye to eye to you, then I'm considered, right, a bigot. Or I'm considered someone who is not being tolerant. Na'udhu billahi minkum. Like, number 7, right? 7, say? Number 7. This one's very, very important. It is a modern day deviation or violation. Number 7, desiring man-made laws for custody. Desiring man-made laws for custody. You guys know what custody means? You get into a problem with your Princess Charming, you divorce her, and then because she's so desperate to see you suffer, you want to see your kids? Go down the route of these man-made courts. You want to see you suffer. You're going to be spending tens and thousands of pounds just to see your children. It's a long process, right? We are seeing a huge increase within the Muslim community, right, when dealing with custody rights. There is a law that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has ordained, that the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam made crystal clear when it comes to having custody over your children. Right? She wants to see him suffer, go down. You say to Akhi, Allah said this, and the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa said, I don't care. Go down the road. You want to see your kids? Huh? I'll see you in court. In some of the previous classes, my brothers and my sisters, we spoke a little bit about judging other than the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Sahih. That which comes under your Tawheed, my brothers and my sisters, is singling out Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in His Lordship, and that which is exclusive to Him, which is what? Passing laws. Is anyone else allowed to pass a law that goes against what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala came, and then for us now to follow it? Abadan. No, not at all. Allah clearly tells in the Quran, وَمَنْ لَمْ يَحْكُمْ بِمَا أَنزَلَ اللَّهُ فَأُولَٰئِكَ whoever now judges but other than the book of Allah Azza wa Jalla, then indeed he is from the disbelievers. إِنِ الْحُكْمُ إِلَّا لِلَّهِ. Hukm, right, it only belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Like, these man-made laws and these courts, my brothers and my sisters, do they judge by the book of Allah Azza wa Jalla? Is the law really on your side? Especially now when you go through a divorce. It's not, it's on the side of who? None other than the lady. Right? There are so many verses, my brothers and my sisters, that Allah scares the living daylight out of me whenever I'm dealing with these cases. I'm saying to her, أَلَمْ تَرَ إِلَى الَّذِينَ يَزْعُمُونَ أَنَّهُمْ آمَنُوا بِمَا أُنزِلَ إِلَيْكَ وَمَا أُنزِلَ مِنْ قَبْلِكَ يُرِيدُونَ أَن يَتَحَاكَمُوا إِلَى الطَّاغُوتِ. Let's stand over this verse. Yes, Allah said in the Quran, haven't you seen those who claim to have believed They claim to have believed in that which was sent down upon Allah, right? That which Allah has sent down, right? On you and those who came before you. However, يريدون أن يتحاكموا إلى الطاغوت. They wish now to choose the judgment of who? The Taghut. Who's the Taghut? Deities besides Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or rules besides Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? Regulations besides Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's regulations. What this verse means is معنى الإرادة في الآية هو الرضا بحكم غير الله. Here what it means is to be satisfied with other than the law of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, while turning away from what? The law of Allah. Right? And one of the time you can see this taking place here. I am more satisfied with the rights that the courts are going to give me. So she chooses that over what? Rights of Allah. And you explain to her, this is the deen of Allah. I don't care. Completely turning away from it. Right? Allah here is referring this to, right, as wanting the other, that which Allah Azza wa Jalla is so displeased with. They were told to disbelieve in it, but they ended up believing. Really, really fair for this woman. We're talking about borderline Islam, brothers and sisters. Right? Talking about borderline Islam. However, there are times when brothers and sisters, you are compelled down to go down that route. His qawanim wada'iyah, his man-made laws, in order to repel oppression that is coming your way, or this is your only way now of acquiring that which you own, or that which belongs to you, or your rights. Scholars, they mention that this might be permissible. It's an exemption as long as 3 conditions are met. Number 1, that this is the only way they can acquire rights. She says to you, go down that route, and you say, okay, no problem, I'm going to go down that route. No, you have to try and find ways to make sure that it doesn't go down that route. Not because you're scared of her, right? But simply because this now involves judging by other than the book of Allah as well. It's not light matter. Right? It's not light matter. Get a sheikh to speak to her, maybe get her relatives. Make it very clear that we don't want to do this simply because we are going to be potentially doing something that might even take us out of the fold of Islam. Very good sign. Number 2, that when now he's forced to take the judgment of these man-made laws, which is law other than the law of Allah Azza wa Jal, and he hates it. He's not doing this out of contentment or satisfaction. And number 3, أن لا يأخذ أكثر من حقه ولو قضى به القانون, that he doesn't take more than his rights. Sometimes what happens, right? Sometimes what happens is some of your rights have been taken away, and then you are given a certain amount of compensation which is more than that which you are entitled to. Sahih? Doesn't happen? You get more. You're not allowed to take that. You only take that which is your right. Khalas. There's damages and there's this and that, there's that. And you only take that which is your right. Number 8, my brothers and my sisters, we're nearly done. Memes and mocking the religion to get views, especially on where? Right, sent. Is it funny now for someone now to start mocking the salah? Huh? The way he's praying now, he's mocking the salah, or he starts making jokes out of it. What we're referring to, my brothers and my sisters, pay attention. We have to make the distinction. You have mocking aspects of the deen. That's one scenario. The second scenario is making fun of Allah. Who can give me some aspects of the deen, such as? Sharia, good. I want some examples that comes under Sharia.
Hijab. The hijab.
Ahsan, the hijab. Mocking the hijab. What else? Mocking the niqab. You guys remember when Boris Johnson came out and he said, oh, the burqa is a letterbox. Huh? You guys remember? Maybe you guys were young. Huh? Right? They started making fun of the letterbox, the niqab, calling it a letterbox. You got people that mock the beard. And you got people that start mocking the hur al-ilm. All the rewards and the punishments of the hereafter, start making fun of it. Right? So you have that. And then you also have maybe someone who makes fun of you because how it looks on you. Is that Uzair, by the way? MashaAllah, Uzair. Allahumma barik. Big man. Huh? He used to be up Uzair. He's teaching Madrasa. No, it might be me up. No, I'm joking. We just used to play him up. Are you brothers with me? Huh? You guys with me? You get someone who mocks another, like Akhi goes, you look like a flower pot. Because of how his beard is. Or because of how it looks, his hair and whatever have you. Like you just woke up, oh, he looks like this. You shouldn't be mocking him. But here, he's not actually mocking the beard itself. He's mocking how you look like. Does that make sense? The first scenario that I mentioned will take you out of the fold of Islam. The second one, it doesn't, but it's a serious thing. Mocking an aspect of the Deen is something that takes you out of the religion of Islam, my brothers and sisters. What's my evidence for it? One time in the battle of Tabuk, a man said, ما أرى قراءنا هؤلاء إلا أرغبنا بطونا وأكذبنا ألسنة وأجبننا عند اللقاء. These Qur'an, speaking about the companions, right? I see them to be nothing more than people who love to eat. And there's no one that lies more than them. And they are the most cowardly when it comes to being on the battlefield. A man stood up from the companion and says, you're a liar. And you're a munafiq, you're a hypocrite. Right? And he goes, I'm going to go and tell the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And this munafiq, he tried to run to the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And then verses already were revealed to the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam. You know what these verses were? وَلَئِنْ سَأَلْتَهُمْ لَيَقُولُنَّ إِنَّمَا كُنَّا نَخُوضُ وَنَلْعَبُ. When you ask them why you did this, they were just playing, we were just joking, we didn't, just passing time. قُلْ سَيْتُنَا الْأَبِلَّهِ وَآيَاتِهِ وَرَسُولِهِ كُنْتُمْ تَسْتَهْزِئُونَ. Or you mocking Allah, His Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and His verses. لا تعتذروا قد كفرتم بعد إيمان. Don't make any excuses. Indeed, you have disbelieved after Iman came to you. You have indeed disbelieved after what? Iman came to you. Right? These verses came down, brothers and sisters. So this man was just saying this thing, oh Messenger of Allah, I was joking. And the Messenger of Allah was furious. And this man, imagine, he's holding on to the horse. What do you call that thing that goes on top of the horse? Saddle. Holding on to the saddle. And the Messenger is not even looking at him. And he's just what? Driving off. And you can imagine what's happening now to this man who's holding into it. Flattering the ground. Right? You might say, well, I was just joking. Whether you're being serious or whether you're joking, my friend, this is a serious act that takes an individual out of the fold with itself. Like every Ramadan, you see people circulating the video of Ferrari Imam. Sahih? The guy is praying up and down, he prays 20 rak'at, maybe in what? 3 minutes? And then people put lol on there, or these emoji that laughs. And we're circulating, oh, ha, 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 look at them. How he's praying the salah. Number 9, my brothers and my sisters, claiming that the Sharia is not fit for this time and age. You will hear statements such as, Wallah, the hudud, the penal code. Is that the best way to translate it? Hudud? Yeah, another word for it? The punishments that have been subscribed in the religion. They'll say to you, this is too barbaric. This is out of touch with reality. The Sharia needs to be what? Reformed. Reformist. Say Sahih. It's not fit for today's day and age. We need to reform it. Now, brothers and sisters, Allah Azza wa Jalla says in the Quran, وَلَكُمْ فِي الْقِصَاصِ حَيَاةٌ. Indeed, with the penal codes and the punishments that have been subscribed under, of course, a Sharia, indeed, in it there is life. Do I really need to spell this out, my brothers and my sisters? Comparisons have been made between Muslim countries and also the United States. Just the United States, I came across statistics of maybe what? Over 10 years ago. From the WHO and so on and so forth. SubhanAllah, prisoners in Muslim countries are maybe what? 4 times less than in the United States of America. We're talking about all of the Muslim countries combined. And just the United States. You also have now which pertains to rape, right? Last time, murders, something along the lines of maybe 8 times more than all of the Muslim countries put together. 8 times more. Ajib. And then they turn around and they say, the Sharia is not fit for today's day and age. If the Sharia was maybe being applied, brothers and sisters, a lot of that which you see taking place wouldn't necessarily take place. But because people think, you know what, I can just do a couple of years in jail and I'll come out, continue. Let's just take the issue of cutting hands, which Allah clearly explicitly mentioned in the Quran, وَالسَّارِقُ وَالسَّارِقَةُ فَاقْطَعُوا أَيْدِيَهُمْ. By the way, this is according to the Sharia, according to the Quran. I don't have my own views and opinions, just in case somebody wants to take out of context what I'm saying. So we always have to keep on saying and saying and saying. Right? This is what Allah says in the Quran. Cut their hands off. Is it because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala just wants to cut people's hands off? Now let me ask you this question. If you now see someone's hand being cut off for theft, are you going to even think about doing the same thing, guys? Can you see the fear that will be instilled within you for doing so? Right? Also, when they say that, taking someone's life or the capital punishment is barbaric. In the law of many, my brothers and my sisters, up until this very day, for treason. You guys know what treason is? When you stab them in the back. Okay? Capital punishment applies. Right? A lot of these murders, they say London has now become one of the worst places around the world for life. Right? Taking somebody's life has become so light. If the capital punishment for taking a life was being applied, you think we would have like the same type of commitment from some of these stabbers? We wouldn't have that, right? So Allah says, وَلَكُمْ فِي الْقِصَاصِ حَيَاةٌ. You have indeed what? Haya, life. Saves lives, brothers and sisters. Or rape has just become adi. It's far less in Muslim countries simply because of how terrified they are. And last but not least, my brothers and my sisters, magic. Magic. Would you guys agree, my brothers and my sisters, that magic is extremely prevalent amongst rappers and musicians in today's day and age? Amy, you might want to help me out, right? There was even this Muslim rapper that recently made Toba. Do you know what I'm talking about? Right? And I think he was openly coming out and talking about how it was magic and whatever. He was he a rapper or was he? Yeah,
Just a magician.
he was a magician. Referring to himself as a Muslim magician. So hey.
Yeah.
And I think he made Toba. Is that?
Yeah.
Kanye West, brothers. There's no Kanye West is? Why tonight you don't know him? One time he came out and he started accusing Beyonce and Jay-Z of being cultists who practice black magic to level up their fame game. Is truly some next level insanity. Huh? He would say that they are involved in human sacrifices. Not surprised. Right? And this is not only Kanye West, guys, but also Kimberly Thompson, a former member of Beyonce's all-female band for 7 years, accused the couple of performing black magic. She claimed that the hallowed singer is guilty of severe witchcraft, dark magic, magic spells, of sexual molestation. She also alleged that she killed her cat. Thompson previously claimed that the singer casts spells on others, murders pet animals, and uses more spells. She even filed a lawsuit against the singer for causing such harm to those around her. And even Brother Eddie recently, I think he released something along the lines of that. A shahid min al-kalam, my brothers and my sisters, it's something that is extremely, extremely widespread up until this very day. What this lady, Kimberly Thompson, is accusing Beyonce and Jay-Z, what's his name? Jay-Z. So I mixed Kanye and Jay-Z. Of is not something that is far-fetched. We've heard scholars speak about these kind of sacrifices that are made for the devil, right? Because my brothers and my sisters, right? The way these magicians they operate, the way it works is you scratch my back and I scratch your back. Allah tells us this in the Quran with regards to blowing the knots. And then the scholars they explain it. وَمِن شَرِّ النَّفَّاثَاتِ فِي الْعُقَدِ. We're seeking refuge in those who blow on knots. So how is this operation carried out, my brothers and my sisters? يَأْتِيَ الشَّيْطَانُ الْأَكْبَرُ. The big shaitan now comes to the magician. Right? And they strike a deal. He says to him, what are you going to leave of your religion? And I will get you those shayateen, those smaller shayateen that are going to work for you. What are you going to leave off? Right? مثلا أترك الوضوء. I'm going to leave off wudu. I'll pray, but I'm just going to leave off wudu. Right? I'm just going to do tayammum. So it starts. To leave off, to leave off, to leave off, to leave off. Huh? Or to maybe leave off 5 daily prayers, or to not pray towards the Qibla, and so on and so forth. فَيَبْدَأُ بِالتَّرْكِ. He starts off by getting him to leave off certain Islamic practices. Shaitan will start giving to him. Shaitan will start giving to him. And then, my brothers and my sisters, it then moves on to doing certain practices. Go and take the Quran, put it inside of the toilet. Also, which is very common, guys, using, excuse me for actually saying this, to use the menstruation blood now to write Quran. Or to slaughter certain animals. Or to sacrifice it now for so-and-so jinn. Throw it in that place. Or to maybe carry out a murder in the name of so-and-so. Right? After this agreement is made, Shaitan will start working for this magician. You'll go to this magician, right? And you'll ask him certain things. I lost X, Y, and Z. Wallahi, brothers and sisters, this actually happened to me one time. You guys remember the BlackBerry? BlackBerry? BBI, what's it called? BBM, huh? Inshallah, it's glad to know that it's not a big age difference between you and you guys. Huh? I lost my camera. And they told me where I was at the time, this institute, to go and visit this lady called Hababa Shifa. Hababa. Huh? Shifa, which means cure. You guys with me? One of the first questions that she'll start asking you is, what's your dad's name? Parents' names? What is your grandparents' names? And me, if I didn't know any better, I just gave it to her. She just want my phone back. Yeah. Actually, at the time, guys, it was my cousin. Anyway, I was summarizing it because I talked about it before. I lost my DB, what's it called? It's BlackBerry, and he lost his camera around the same time. Right? And then we found the thief. And then the thief gave me a broken one, and then we ended up, I couldn't have to cut long story short. I already found my one at the time. I actually went to visit her, told her, ready, please, help us. This was the first time. And then we found it. And then later on we had to go back because my cousin, he didn't find his camera. I didn't want to go because I already found my camera. He was like, okay, I went with you yesterday and I'll come with you. She gave us 2 papers that were wrapped up. She said, Allah, I swear by the Lord of the Kaaba, don't open it, she said. Me, I already found my phone in it. Huh? Let me open it. She said, don't open it, go and put it under a stone. Go and put it under a stone. So I decided to open it. Guys, I remember there were some verses, Surah Dukhan. And it was all scribbled. There was scribbly lines all over it. Fly scared the living day out of me. I closed it and I put it on the stone. My cousin done it from the get-go. Wallahi, guys, the guy who stole his camera came and gave it to me. I witnessed it. And he was muddling up his words and he was confused and everything. He sent a shayateen to him. So, what we were mentioning earlier, you strike a deal now with the shaitan. What the shaitan does, my brothers, my sisters, because of course they have different powers that human beings don't have. Some are able to move very, very quickly. They'll go and look for him, and then they'll bring you the information. Something that the average person will be able to do. You have to be my brothers, my sisters, to conclude. I'm only going to go on for another 2-3 minutes. Imagine, my brothers and my sisters, how did it all start? We are told in Surah Al-Baqarah, page 16, واتبعوا ما تتلو الشياطين على ملك سليمان وما كفر سليمان ولكن الشياطين كفروا ولكن الشياطين كفروا. Different qira'ah. Allah Azza wa Jalla tells us 2 angels came down, and these 2 angels were called Harut and Marut. And they came to the city of Babylon. Right? Where is this? They say that this is located in Iraq. How ancient was it? They say there was no city before this. This was like the first real civilization. Right? Talking about before Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam and so on and so on. For Musa. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent down these 2 angels, Harut and Marut, with the knowledge of how to control and access the jinn. They were sent and they were allowed to teach anyone magic. Right? Anyone who wanted to study the art of magic, they were allowed to teach them. However, they would come with a huge disclaimer. إِنَّمَا نَحْنُ فِتْنَةٌ فَلَا تَكْفُرْ. We are a fitna. We'll teach you, no problem. But don't commit kufr. Right? Those who learned it then were the first to learn magic, my brothers and my sisters. Sihr is of types, my brothers and my sisters, that which involves controlling the shayateen. And then you also have, my brothers and my sisters, that which involves potions. Do you guys remember Cartoon Network? Huh? You walk in and they have these colored potions. Sahih. According to the majority, even the second one now. First one is no doubt. It's the act that takes you out of fold this Islam. The second position is that majority, they hold it to be disbelief, khilaf al-Shafi'i. Right? Khilaf al-Shafi'i. The majority, they hold it to be naqd al-kufr. Then you also have, my brothers and my sisters, that which relates to performing illusions. Where it begins to appear to you now that you're seeing something, but in reality you're not. وَسَحَرُوا أَعْيُنَ النَّاسِ وَاسْتَرْهَبُوهُم. Fir'aun, or the magicians of Fir'aun, they began to what? Put magic on the eyes of people, sah? And it began to appear that these sticks were actually what? Snakes. يُخَيَّلُ إِلَيْهِ مِنْ سِحْرِهِمْ أَنَّهَا تَسْعَى وَتَسْعِي. Began to appear to them that these snakes were moving very, very quickly around with the sticks. Tayyiyyah, قصة عجيبة, very interesting story. One of the teachers that taught Sheikh Abu Usama, guys know Sheikh Abu Usama? Al-Dhahabi? Sheikh Abu Usama Al-Dhahabi? Sheikh Abu Usama comes in, that's what I'm talking about. The American Sheikh, African American. He was taught by a Sheikh called Sheikh Hamad al-Ansari. The Sheikh Hamad al-Ansari, he talks about how he one time traveled out to India. And they were there waiting in the hotel lobby. And some of these Indians, or these Hindus, they came to them and they were carrying tha'abin, right? Big, huge snakes, pythons. I think that's best one for pythons. Tha'abin. They were carrying it on their backs. And Shaykh Hamad al-Ansari says, فَقَرَأْتُ, I began to recite, right, the statement of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, مَا جِئْتُمْ بِالسِّحْرِ مَا جِئْتُمْ بِالسِّحْرِ إِنَّ اللَّهَ سَيُبْطِلُهُ. These are the verses that you normally read when someone has magic, right? لما جاء السحرة قال له موسى ألقوا ما أنتم فلما ألقوا قال موسى ما جئتم بالسحر إن الله سيبطله. Musa said to them, the sihr that you came with, indeed Allah Azza wa Jalla will what? Will destroy it. So he said, as soon as we said that, فَانْقَلَبَتْ حِبَالًا, it turned into ropes. Right? He ended up turning into ropes. Right? So what are some of the signs, my brothers and my sisters, of a magician, very, very quickly, and then we're done, guys? Contravening the rules of a ruqya shar'iyya, the legislated healing. When you get sick, my brothers and my sisters, anyone can read the Quran. Can if someone to read Quran on you, and so on and so forth, it has conditions. One of these conditions, in order for it to be a ruqya that is sharia based, only the words and the names of Allah should be used. Right? Second condition is only Arabic should be used. Right? And number 3, believing that ruqya only works by the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? You shouldn't be using disjointed, mumbled up words. One time, brothers, wallahi, in Yemen, I went to a guy, right? And he just started mumbling, using disjointed words. I'm like, what is he saying? What was he saying? Right? Because of course, is ma'ruf. We've heard the Quran, we know what it sounds like. If someone else starts speaking like that, it's not ruqya. So using disjointed words, or using speech which is incomprehensible, it's from the signs of a magician, guys. Reading the stars, the palms, or tree leaves, they have something called palmistry. Palmistry, right? Also today you have on Snapchat. What do you guys have on Snapchat? Zodiac signs become extremely widespread. Blooming over nuts, my brothers and my sisters, causing discord, or what they call They have what? Al-Aqs, right? Causing a friction between two people. I get this card that comes through my door every now and again. It's called Visit Babu Ali. It's in yellow. Yellow card, Visit Babu Ali. And it says in there, if you want to love someone, if you want to get back with someone, if you need any spells, call this number. One time I decided to call him, expose him. Shaitan card, right? Ordering this person who's sick to do something which is in contrary to the Sharia, to leave off pronouncing the name of Allah, so on and so forth. Asking about the names of your parents and your grandparents, claiming to possess the knowledge of the unseen, brothers and sisters. These are all big red flags. Or giving you a prescription. Not the prescription that you take to the pharmacy, guys. Prescription that has the names of what? Harut. Should I say Haman, Fir'aun, and so on and so forth. That brings us, my brothers and my sisters, to the end of our 4-week course. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala add this on the scale of our good deeds and on the scale of our brothers who helped facilitate this. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward every single one of you guys for taking time out on a Sunday for the last 4 weeks to learn about your religion. I hope, inshallah ta'ala, you all benefited. Is there going to be a class next week? I think someone will ask that question. Perhaps no. Right? I'm actually going to Canada. We wanted to get this all finished within this period. Make our brothers, some of these criminals don't give me problems at the border. And they do when I go to America. Right? Now that I'm able to successfully make sure you got this out, brainwash time. Check out. Or in other words, to teach them Islam, guys. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us means and keys to goodness. Brothers and sisters, I ask Allah Azza wa Jalla, if He doesn't reunite us in this world, bring us back together in the hereafter, in the highest part of the Jannah. Normally at the end of each class, I take a moment out to thank my teachers who taught me, even if it was a harf, a letter, or one verse, or one hadith, everything that I related back to you, my brothers and sisters, a lot of it I benefited from my teachers. Taught us Aqeed, taught us Tawheed, Shaykh al-Razaq al-Badr, Shaykh Salih Sindi. And other than that, the poet says, إِذَا أَفَادَ الْإِنسَانُ بِفَائِدَةٍ مِنَ الْعُلُومِ فَلَازِمْ شُكْرَهُ أَبَدًا. If anyone ever benefits you, then always be thankful. وَقُلْ فُلَانٌ, and say so and so. أَفَادَنِيهَا, he benefited me, and get rid of your hasad, get rid of your arrogance. Get it out of the way. Right? May Allah Azza wa Jalla protect us from what the poet said when he said, وَعَلِّمُهُ الرِّمَايَةِ كُلَّ يَوْمٍ فَلَمَّا اشْتَدَّ سَاعِيُهُ وَعَمَانِي وَكَمْ عَلَّمْتُهُ نَظْمَ الْقَوَافِ فَلَمَّا قَالَ قَافِيَةَ الْعِجَابِ. Every day I teach him archery. The day when he was able to shoot, the first person that he shot at was those people or those who actually taught him. He said, "Oh, shoot at me, man. I know it's a bit tough when you grow up." And then he says, I used to teach him every day how to put lines of poetry together. And the moment he was able to put one, you know how they have diss tracks, right? Diss tracks, dissing one another. Before they had this poetry. Wallahi Azim, he used to put lines of poetry together, they would end up dissing the whole Qabila, the whole tribe. So they would put one together on the first one, and he pelted it out with none other than person at all. Anyone have any questions? I can't get a question now.
Voting, is it shirk to vote in the political election?
I can see why somebody might say that this is actually what after shirk, simply because you're voting for someone who's going to be carrying out man-made laws, which is in contrary to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's religion. So I can see the angle that they come from. However, my brothers and my sisters, other scholars, they do mention that, okay, this is now the lesser of the two evils. If someone's going to come into power, that is less of a problem than the other. Let me ask you guys a question. Which one's worse, Labour or Conservative? Huh? There's a difference of opinion among scholars here, guys. Which one's worse?
Same.
It's just about as each
Same.
That's bad as one another. Honestly, guys, you know me, I'm going around talking about all of these topics. Do you think I'll be able to do it if Labour was in power? Conservatives actually turn a blind eye. I'm not saying they're better, but I'm just telling you guys, they turn a blind eye to a lot of things we talk about. More than half of conservatives voted against same-sex marriages. There's 300, I believe, and 37 conservative members. I think 137, they voted against it. I went through the whole list, it was on the BBC. And Labour, and everyone else. And amongst them was Muslims, they all sold out. I don't really have, I'm just there going around, like exercising my right to speak freely before these guys come into power, and by that time I should be gone anyway. I don't really have, my brothers and my sisters, you know, you find yourself sometimes in these predicaments. Maybe one day you go through a qawa'id fiqhiyah, leading legal maxims of fiqh that will change your life, your perspective on the deen. One day, inshallah ta'ala. Any other questions? Because I'm going to have to show off, guys.
When you register your marriage here, you put in your, like you can, and the government will make you split your stuff. You put in your marriage laws into the eye of the government. Is that something that's...
Yeah, it's a problem. It's a problem. If you can just avoid it altogether, man will be a shot. Huh? I know some of the students of knowledge recently, they came with a very balanced answer with regards to these marriage certificates. I just completely forgot what the discussion was because it's a contemporary issue. So I don't have a full answer, but I'll tell you something. Tomorrow, if you want to get divorced and you're in that, would you want this type of marriage? Civil. No, you're in a civil marriage, it's going to be a headache to dissolve it. It's going to be a headache to dissolve it. It's a very dark route. Constantly having to be in contact with the families, trying to get this. It's a bit of a headache. So get an Islamic one done. Inshallah ta'ala, Islamic one done. Or are you guys going to do what what's the name? Hakimi. Huh? Hakimi, guys, huh? Legend. Stop there, inshallah ta'ala. Because you're on the threat. Like, these the modern day women. Tomorrow, divorce happens, she's going to start taking half of that which she's not even entitled to.
Is it shirk though? Because you're putting
This scenario, I'm not exactly sure. We need to kind of like look into it deeper. Also, my brothers and sisters, I know I mentioned a lot of things. Just be very careful with how you go about using these terminologies. You might see someone doing something and then you say to them, you're this. Right? On my YouTube channel, I went through preventative factors of takfir, calling another person a kafir, and the conditions of it. Books are written on it. When you get a chance, inshallah ta'ala, go through it. Right? Conditions of takfir, it's on my YouTube channel. Before embarking upon and being very quick in declaring another to be someone who has left the fold of Islam. We might say that something is an act of shirk or an act of kufr, and I talked about this in my introduction, but that doesn't mean he becomes a kafir. And that's because you need to establish the proofs and he needs to what? Remove the doubts that he has. Inshallah ta'ala. We will stop there. Jazakumullah khairan. Barakallahu feekum. Ahmed, wait for me, huh?